Hey everybody, it's Nick, aka Ketwalski here, chiming in with a new video series that I'm going to start doing, just a kind of a vlog type deal. Everybody does them, but I wanted to start doing it because I want to talk about some of the behind the scenes things that go on in relations to the content that I create for the channel. I think it's kind of interesting sometimes if you learn a little bit about somebody's creative thoughts and their process and how they arrived at a certain decision or even, a product. I think it kind of adds more depth to the overall enjoyment as a viewer. So if you guys follow me pretty regularly, you notice that for the last couple of months, maybe 3, maybe 4 months, my uploads were kind of sporadic, and the content that I was producing wasn't really that great. I was definitely getting quite a bit of creator burnout, but it was more than just that, though. It wasn't just creator burnout. It was I was getting kind of disappointed with the style of videos that I was making. I was getting bored with them, and because essentially I view them as kind of the mockumentary style, which can be really fun and interesting, but if not done with a lot of attention to detail, quickly turns into a glorified slideshow presentation that's kind of boring and not really interesting to watch. Yeah, I mean, I get up there and I've got my pictures and it's like cycling through and it's got music in the background and I have an intro and I'm talking over them to try to get a point across. But ultimately, the videos themselves are boring, and they're not very enjoyable for a mainstream market. And I just continued to kind of crap out these videos, mainly, again, because I was getting burnt out, but also I was just getting more bored with the way I was doing them. And then I think that level of disinterest was clearly being showcased on the videos themselves and the way that the content was being presented to the viewer. Who are you guys? So I wanted to do this behind the scenes little video thing to explain why it is that the last 4 or 5 videos that I've uploaded, last 4 really, that I've uploaded have been and felt much different than my previous content. A lot of people have commented on the videos. They've sent me messages on Twitter and on Facebook saying, hey, these videos are really great. I appreciate your content. It's so much different. I don't know what you're doing, but keep it up, all this other stuff. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that process and why it is that the videos are resonating more with you guys and gals as the fans and more enjoyable with the mainstream audience, but they're still Star Trek related and still lore and content related. So today I'm going to talk about 2 videos and my creative process on how I arrived at the videos originally. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Transwarp Drive video. That's the first video in this new style of Ketwalski that I've attempted to do. So after spending a few months being sporadic and then basically an entire month off from the entire YouTube channel, I was sitting there researching and just Googling some Star Trek stuff, and the question came up for me, which was, how far away is Kronos from Earth? And I was just doing research on Memory Alpha and Beta, and I was remembering, okay, in the episode of Enterprise and the Broken Bow and all this other stuff like that. And I was sitting there thinking, well, this is kind of an interesting thing. Like, nobody seems to really have an answer for the distance and how long it takes to get there and how far away Kronos is from Earth. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can make a video about this. So there's actually a totally different cut of this video that had nothing to do with the transwarp beaming device and was only about the distance between Earth and Kronos and about time in terms of how long it takes for various starships to get back and forth. And no one's ever going to see that because it was a glorified slideshow presentation where I'm just yapping away and I've got star charts in there and I'm like measuring things out and all this craziness. Some of that did make it into the PTBD video, but most of it was left on the editing floor, as they say. So anyway, I decided, I looked at that video and I said, you know what, this is the same stuff. It's the same stuff, and I don't want to keep doing this. I want to make something different. I want to make different content. So how can I take the question of how far away these 2 planets are and create a framing device that is interesting and, I guess, relevant to today's Trek audience? So that's where the transwarp beaming device came into play. So I took the interesting lore topic of how far away these two powers, you know, their primary homeworlds are, I took that lore topic and inserted it into the framing device around Star Trek Into Darkness, which is a movie that people still watch. It's not that old, and people are very, very opinionated in regards to that film. So when I started to shape it in that way, it became much more relevant, and it became easier to layer in the lore topic of about the distances between the two, and actually talking about Enterprise's Broken Bow episode and all this other stuff like that. Like, I was able to layer it in to this other discussion about the transwarp beaming device, and it became a video about multiple layers of lore, including this transwarp beaming device thing. But that wasn't enough, though. So, like, yeah, okay, so now I've just made a more complex lore video, but it's more relevant, it's framed better, but I still need to make it more enjoyable for a general audience. So how do I get that? Well, then you add the comedic element to it. And the sound that I play right at the beginning of the video, the PTBD video, which is this. That sound is from a video that somebody made about Red Letter Media versus Collider, because Red Letter Media does this whole thing about how they are pretending to be, you know, the Collider folks, and, you know, being these ultimate fanboys and just, you know, all this craziness. Really great series called The Nerd Crew. But in this compilation video that this guy put together, he had a clip in there of somebody opening up a box, and it made like that weird sound. And then he played it over and over again throughout the video as kind of a joke, and it was super funny, and I really thought it was really great. And I was like, well, how can I add that in to the video? Because I've been wanting to do something more comedic related. So now I've got this slight idea of this sarcastic sound. Now I've got the framing of it being related to Star Trek Into Darkness, and I've got my core lore topic, which is where I started from, which was how far away these two planets are. So when I started to put all those pieces together, that's how that video kind of became connected. And I also said to myself, okay, comedy can only last for so long, and these lore videos, most of my analytics on YouTube show that people typically watch between 5 and 7 minutes of my videos. So my goal was to try to keep any video that I was going to create now for the channel to be under 10 minutes beyond, like, this, clearly this, you know, vlog. But all the interesting Trek-related videos, my intent was to keep it below 10 minutes, and it actually came out around 6 minutes. And another thing that I did, which I stopped doing a long time ago, was I wrote a script. I actually wrote up, you know, a 6-paragraph script, and I edited it all together, and I broke it down. And then when I recorded the audio, I practiced more inflection. I was able to speak more clearly, and I was able to actually get things out in a way that was, again, more interesting in the way that I was talking to try to engage the viewer. Now, again, you might think, okay, well, that's pretty simple. Why wouldn't you always do that? Well, because I was getting lazy and I didn't want to make scripts for every damn video. And not a lot of them require scripts. You kind of get a good feel for what it is, and you can kind of just shit a video out. But again, that quality content is reflective in what I'm putting up. So, you know, and also reflective in how often you guys and gals are watching the videos. So that was the PTBD video. So that one went up, and people really liked it, and I liked it too. Like, I was like, man, this video is really good. So how can I repeat this process again? And then I sat there and I said, okay, well, I don't really have a topic. I need another topic to talk about. So that's where the other video that we're going to talk about is the phaser video. And again, this topic started with my desire to understand how the different phasers function in Star Trek, because I've always been confused as to what the hell the difference between a phaser turret, a phaser bank, a phaser array, all these different terms that get thrown around in Star Trek all the time. I was always very confused. It seemed as if the writers kind of got confused sometimes too, where they just used them interchangeably with one another. But of course, you know, Trek fans spend a lot of time researching this and putting these really cool concepts together. So that's where that lore video started. And again, I was faced with that situation of, okay, so how can I take the idea of discussing the different types of phasers and make it relevant to, again, a more modern Trek audience? How can I do that? And the video initially started as my framing device for it was initially going to be the Kelvin universe. And I was only going to talk about the Kelvin universe and just talk about how the effect looks good in the Kelvin universe, so it looks, it's fine, like it's okay. And as I was doing the research and I was pulling down video and I was doing all this other stuff for it, that is when I realized that I could really frame this into Star Trek Discovery. Now, a lot of people, with Kelvin, some people really like it. Other people just typically just ignore it completely because it doesn't affect the Prime universe. So it's, it's kind of a hit or miss as to what the interaction is. But if you take something and frame it in Star Trek Discovery, everybody's got an opinion about Star Trek Discovery. So if you take that as your framing device, it's going to increase the attention and also interaction that you get with a fan as a viewer. So it was actually kind of a complete accident that I came across the reason that I should be talking about this, which is that the Discovery phasers look identical to the Kelvin timeline. So then the entire video frame shifted from Kelvin, just Kelvin, to I took the Kelvin now being a supporting element, and now the Discovery was the main framing device for talking about phasers. And it worked, and as I was doing the research, I found that a lot of people definitely compared Kelvin Universe Discovery and the Wrath of Khan because of the way that the Wrath of Khan's USS Reliant phases were firing. So now I was also able to frame it in not only just Kelvin, not only Discovery, but also with the Wrath of Khan, which is arguably one of the most popular Star Trek films ever made. So the video was extremely relevant to Trekkies of all different avenues. So, when I was able to kind of put all that together, I was able to sit there and say, okay, in my script, I'm going to say, my goal here today in this video is to explain why the Kelvin phasers look like this. Excuse me, not Kelvin. It's why the Discovery phasers and Kelvin really look like this as opposed to the standard phasers that we saw in like TOS and TNG. And, but really my personal goal as like a lore guy was to talk about how phasers worked, which is a boring topic, and I get that. If I wanted to bore everybody, I could literally pull up my technical manuals and my encyclopedia and I could read it verbatim to you guys. But as someone who's responsible, in my opinion, to kind of educate you as the audience as to how Trek works, I feel it's kind of my responsibility to make the video more interesting. When you have a teacher in school that reads every single thing inside of the, the textbook verbatim out to you as the student, it's very boring and it's hard for you to receive that information and learn it because you're not interested. But if you have a teacher that can take the information and turn it into a way that's fun and exciting, and it's a way to connect with you as the student, you learn the material better and you enjoy the class better and you have an overall great experience. So that to me is like the difference between the videos I was making previously, which was essentially just a documentary style slideshow, and the way that I'm doing it now, which is adding in more comedic elements while keeping the video shortened, while then also framing it in something that is very relevant to you as an individual who is maybe old to Star Trek or new to Star Trek. But right now, the hot topics that everybody talks about nowadays is Discovery and occasionally the Kelvin verse. So framing it in those ways allows me to, again, create something that's a bit more interesting for you guys and gals as the viewers. So, yeah, so that was really the whole process there. It starts for me as like a bit of lore, and then I'm like sitting here thinking to myself, okay, so now how can I crack that nut? How can I frame this in a way that really resonates with the audience? And I guess I'll go ahead and talk about the Franklin video, since that's also super popular right now. Everyone seems to really like that video. Everyone's got an opinion about it. So the Franklin video, no kidding, started with with my desire to talk about how jacked up the Starfleet registry system is. But again, that's not very interesting. Like, some folks would find that really fascinating. They're like, oh yeah, this is a really cool topic. Let's talk about that. But most people would be like, why is this guy sitting here talking about numbers on starships? Nobody cares. This is lame. So then I sit there and say, okay, now how can I frame this in a way that's relevant to people today? And again, with this video, originally the framing device that I was going to use was the situation with the USS Constellation, which was a Constitution-class vessel. It had a different registry number. It was earlier than the Enterprise's number, the original TOS Enterprise number. and I was going to talk about it in that frame, which is, you know, still pretty interesting because I think a lot of people still like TOS and they still watch it pretty regularly as a rerun and stuff like that. But as I was going through that process and research, that is when I came across, again, the situation with the Franklin. And I loved the Franklin in Star Trek Beyond. By the way, if you haven't watched Star Trek Beyond because you got put off by Star Trek Into Darkness, do yourself a favor, go watch Beyond. It's a really, really good movie. And the Franklin, which is in that movie, I actually have a little model of it right here. The Franklin was just a great addition. I just liked the ship. It was cool, but it caused a lot of problems with canon-wise, which is what I addressed in the video. So now I've gotten this super relevant framing device, which is, again, the Kelvin universe, but within that, a smaller frame device is talking specifically about Enterprise and the early time period of the Federation and Starfleet. So it was two really good framing devices that I think were very relevant to most audiences, and it's clearly, you know, hit off a lot because the external piece, which was kind of a unintended catalyst of discussion in the YouTube comments, was people really started to bring in every other instance of an issue that was related to Starfleet registry numbers, which is, again, what I originally wanted to talk about. So it's kind of funny that the conversation on YouTube turned that way, but my video was kind of focused in on the Franklin. But that's the way I framed it, though. That's the way I'm trying to change out the videos to be something a little bit more interesting, entertaining, and fun for the viewers to watch and learn about. And even in like the Franklin video, like I even threw in a bit of World War II history in there, which again is like it could be a very boring and dry topic. But I was able to kind of create it in a way that was really fun for you guys and gals to watch. I think the Franklin video, to me, was teetering right on that edge again, though, of it being a little too informative and not quite jokey enough. So I tried to edit it down and try to keep the pace of the video much shorter and tighter to try to keep the energy up of the entire thing, which was hard to do because, again, in a span of just a few minutes, I talk about a lot of different things. Registry numbers, TOS, Constellation, Franklin, World War II. I talk about a whole bunch of different topics. You know, Mako, Earth, United Earth, Starfleet. There's a whole bunch of information kind of jammed into that 6 minutes. Woo. And again, it's to try to keep that energy up, but also still provide a lot of good information for you as the viewer. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. You know, that's the thought process that I have right now. Going forward, I'm hoping that my videos will still maintain this new style. I still haven't quite figured out everything that I'm doing. Like, it feels like I kind of struck gold a little bit, but I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to keep the style going. But I'm going to continue to churn out content as often as I can, but also with the understanding that it's going to be good. Like, I spent about 2 weeks on the PTBD video, and then I spent about a week on the phaser video, and then, you know, another week of research and development and on the Franklin video. So everything's kind of slowly coming with time, and everything's kind of slowly kind of pouring out from there. So the videos are going to come regularly, but they're not going to come up any earlier than what's going to be good enough for the channel now. You know, it's got to be good. It's got to be really good content, and it's got to be fun. You know, it's got to be able to reach everybody on an entertainment level. And I do want everyone to know that I'm not discrediting any other Trek YouTuber or lore YouTubers or anything like that that do the mockumentary style with the images on there. I'm not trying to discredit that in any way or say that it's boring or their channels are lame or doing that is lame. I've got dozens of videos that are just like that I'm not going to take down, that I still think have good content in there. But to me, as a content creator, I was looking for a more creative edge to my videos. So what I started doing was this. But that's just a personal thing. There's nothing wrong with doing it with just slideshows and just kind of doing a voiceover with some music in the background, maybe a few clips. Speaking of clips, though, by the way, as an unrelated note, but about an editing note, you know, so CBS really doesn't like you to use their footage in YouTube. Paramount's a little bit more lenient. So you may notice that, especially like in the phaser video, I used a lot of the same clips from Discovery and kind of kept them edited far down as possible. And then, like, I only used one specific clip from TNG. I didn't use any more than that, just the one. And there's a lot of Kelvin Universe clips in there that are much longer because Paramount's a lot less stringent on their copyright policies. So in the future, if you guys start to notice, like, why does he use the same like 5-second, 10-second clips for the same stuff? What's the deal here? It's because I'm trying to avoid any kind of copyright slashes against the videos and also the channel. So that's kind of why that's like that. So I got to be as careful as I can be. I try to use the trailer footage and the PTBD video, which a lot of companies will be, more lenient with since it's official promotional material, so people aren't, because you could get that content for free anyways, so it's not like it's going to be like they're missing out on something. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that bit in there for you guys and gals as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This is it. This is the new style of videos. Like I said, hopefully I'll be able to keep it up. And another thing, actually, now that I'm just kind of talking, this is why it's good to kind of just talk about it, because now I'm just kind of remembering other things that I changed in the videos, is I got rid of the intro and the outro. Like, the intro and the outro thing was really dumb, and I read on a million websites that's like, you gotta have an intro, and then you have your outro, and you have your cards, and you remind people to subscribe, and you do this, and you do that. You say all these fucking lines, and I'm just done with it. Like, I'm just done with it. I think it's annoying. I think it's annoying that I developed the habit of having an intro, like, clip, like a 10-second where the logo would flash and, like, beam in or whatever, and then I would also introduce myself again anyways. Like, as if you don't know what fucking channel you're on already. You don't know which YouTuber this is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, like, why do I need to keep introducing myself in every video? Why do I need to keep reminding people to like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter and Facebook? Like, if you want to follow me, you're going to follow me. So it's kind of bizarre that every, like, YouTube tutorial and, like, self-help page will tell you that you got to do these. You have to do these things. You got to remind people at the beginning of your video to like and subscribe. You got to tell them at the end to like and subscribe. You got to have your intro. You got to have your outro. You should have a theme. You should call your subscribers by a fun name. You should do these different things. And I guess it's fine if you're starting out and you don't really know what the hell you're doing. But honestly, to me nowadays, it's just annoying and it's stupid, and I hate it. Again, I'm not criticizing anybody who does that or anyone who's starting a new channel that wants to do that. It's just, for me, I'm over it. Like, let's just get to the content. That's where I'm at now. So anyways, guys, that's it. I appreciate you watching it. Stay tuned for more on the channel, and throw some comments down below. Of course, I always check them, and I can't wait to read them. So I'll check y'all later. Live long and prosper.
Beautiful day.